Hello, welcome to Skull RPG Podcast. My name's Dwight Skull.
My name's Jacob Skull.
And today we're going to teach you how to tell your story.
So to continue with our 101 series...
GMing 101.
We've tackled the genres, the roles, your type, how to pair that game and the rules. After that, the next thing you would need is what types of props or other things you need besides the core books for you to start.
All right, I'm going to be a little controversial. I think every GM needs a full Victorian wig, outfit, and corset. No, I'm just joking. I think you should match your props to the characters that you're playing with, but there's also a certain amount of props you need for each type of game. The most, I think, prop-intensive game, if you want to look at it that way, is Dungeons and Dragons, because you need a map of sorts. Yep. So we spent, $50 on a wet erase mat of 5-foot squares on one side. You flip it over and it's got 5-foot hexes on the other side. And
$100-ish in minis, I would say.
Unless you're counting the money we've spent on 3D printers. But yes, I would agree with you for that. Like resin printers and Patreon things to get different characters and really good models, and the amount of stuff I've spent on resin and gloves. But okay, you can spend hundreds of dollars in miniatures, or all the paint and the brushes and the money I spent on painting those stupid missions.
I was more meaning about $100 in the official Wizard of the Coast that you were able to pick up years ago.
Oh, we spent only $20 and got some really just random stuff, which was really helpful. There's ways to do this, but you could just go full bore. I haven't got into airbrush painting
yet.
I didn't want to say yet because my wife's in the next room and she'll get really angry at me. The last thing I need to know is like another hobby. But the point is, she's normally nice to me. That said, you can spend D&D. To me, seems to be the thing that you spend a lot of money on, and then you can buy the terrain and you can make your own terrain. And there's some really cool YouTube channel guys that make stuff out of foam that.
It's amazing.
I can't even make.
Or there's kits you can buy for that are also ludicrously expensive or cheap because they're the foam.
Yeah. How much do you want to get it? So D&D seems like, I'm going to say this, and it's controversial, but I'm kind of pointing 4 fingers at myself, or 3 fingers. You know, when you point your finger, you like 3 at yourself. Anyway, it feels like we just have, we wanted some toys to play with. And we're going to do some really cool stuff to get these toys.
There's other games like that, too, like Warhammer is that way.
Warhammer's very much that way.
Mini-intensive.
And so it's like Star Wars Armada, like the board game.
Uh-huh.
You keep buying minis and minis for the ships, and everything's plotted out.
RPG Battletech could be that way, too.
Battletech absolutely could be. Actually, a friend of mine just sent me a picture of a Battletech thing that he had just painted, and I'd gotten him into painting minis when he was like 6. And so he had just given me something like, hey, here's my cool Battletech thing I just did, and just want to let you know that you inspired me to keep painting well into my 20s, and I think he's almost early 30s now. So anyway, point is, it's kind of nuts. So D&D is the one that has the most heavy props. Now, on top of that, you could add music. You could add sound. So I had a guy, this was great. So I had a guy, and I just riffed it. We were playing, I think, Shadowrun. It was Shadowrun.
It was your Shadowrun-esque game that we played in GURPS.
Yes, and what ended up happening is they needed a guy, and the guy that they needed to see, he just played a piano at the bar. So they're like, "Oh, he's the piano man." So every time I had him show up, I'd play the Piano Man by Billy Joel.
Yes.
And I'd play the Piano Man. I could pull up my phone. I'd be like, "Oh, you guys are going to see that." And then you hear the harmonica kick on. Anyway, everyone laughed like, "We're going to go see the Piano Man, yeah." Anyway, I had a couple of other voices and other things which you can consider props. I had voices for people. You could, if you're not good with voices, I think we talked about this in one of our other podcasts, but you could actually just get a hat, a wig, glasses, things like that if you really want to go all out. So when you're so-and-so's character, you just kind of pull out the prop, put it on your head, roll with it, maybe give an accent, maybe not give an accent, but they know they're talking to the general because you got the general cap on.
Mm-hmm.
They know they're talking to the sergeant because he's got like the mirrored sunglasses like a jerk on.
Yeah, which that's optional. You don't need it. So it's just extra to give a little bit more.
To be honest, the only thing that's not optional when you're playing with Dungeons and Dragons is something with 5-foot grid.
Yes.
And something to represent minis. This could be you print out a battle mat, and then you use pennies and dimes and nickels.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
There's whole entire ones that are, there's whole entire things you can print or buy that are just little wooden circles.
Or you can spend $350 on a resin printer like I did in Patreon thing. I mean, we won't get into what I've done. So that said, and hundreds of dollars on paint. But, the sky's the limit on what you can spend your money on in this genre. Now, we could go to another system like GURPS. It doesn't use the 5-foot system by any stretch of the imagination. It's all done in your head. You could use it if you wanted, because why would you waste thousands of dollars of stuff?
Access to the internet to download to download the character sheet and enough to print for your characters and pen. And that's literally it.
And on our episode on how to do remote games, that's a great game to do remotely, because everyone needs everyone needs 3 6-sided dice.
Yes, 3 6-sided dice.
So go rob your or
Candyland, literally anything.
Heck, even Monopoly, and roll one of them twice. I don't care. But the point is, you have 6-sided dice. It's really simple to get started with GURPS, and the props needed are functionally non-existent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something to have your character sheet on, electronic or otherwise. 3 6-sided dice. Or one that you roll a bunch of times. I don't care if you have carpal tunnel at the end of that. If you're too cheap to buy dice, I mean, that's on you. I got hundreds of dice, not just D6s. But the point is, you can do whatever you want, right? That's the fun part. So GURPS is like, RPG on a budget, because you don't need much. And then if you don't want to have a budget, and then you could still add on anything, like I said. You could do the voices, you could do the wigs, you could do the full Victorian costume with a corset. If you do that and you're a guy, please send me a pic. I'd love to see it. And, hey, why not, right? If you actually ever want to contact us for any reason, just go to skullrpg.com and just click on the contact us button. You'll email us. We'll see it and respond back to it. We love hearing from people. It's kind of fun. So anyway, there you go. That said, I'm going to get a lot of weird corset pictures in the mail now. Stop being trolls, folks. Come on. So anyway, that's pretty much it for the props. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can add. I know a lot of there's whole genres of music people to do music for your game. I've tried that. It doesn't necessarily work as well for me, but I'm sure for other people it works really well. And then there's concept art and stuff you can do. Actually, if you go to our resources page and you're playing a Shadowrun or a Cyberpunk game, I actually have it's basically a pic you can upload into Canva or PicMonkey or whatever you use. I use Canva. I built it in Canva, and it's like a dossier that you can build people around. And that's the kind of cool thing, too. You could build dossiers for any of your spy games or something like that, and you can hand them out to your players. I also did one where I had my wife write stuff in a calligraphy that I used and handed it out to people as kind of the note they found. There's a lot of props that you can use, maps, old maps. There's a lot of old maps online. I was looking to make one of my Jack the Ripper games a lot more realistic. So I actually found maps of literally 1885 maps of England, which had all of the streets and stuff. And so you could do something really cool. I also could have just pulled out my Whitechapel game, I guess, and just taken pictures, but whatever. Anyway, there's a lot of cool things you can do with props. For the most part, if you're playing something like a GURPS, you don't need much of anything. If you're playing something like D&D, you're going to need a little bit more involvement, but you don't have to break the bank. You don't have to buy a 3D printer to play D&D.
You don't need to have a custom table with it synced in that you made by scratch, which some people do.
I have not done that one yet. But yeah, and that's just all there is to it. So, but why would you not want... No, I'm joking. Because you're poor, or you have better things to spend your money on, like retirement funds. So anyway, or vacations. That said, sky's the limit on props, or you can go very minimalistic on props.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, thanks for listening.
And for more resources, please go to skullrpg.com.